Everything changed in a matter of seconds. I want you to picture the scene. The final whistle blows, the confetti falls from the stadium rafters in this beautiful, chaotic storm. The parade route is eventually cleared, the multi-million-dollar diamond rings are handed out. But then, you know what happens? The music stops. The locker room goes entirely, terrifyingly silent. That incredible euphoric high completely fades away, and it leaves behind only aching bodies and the cold, unforgiving absolute reality of the business of professional football. So what happens after a team reaches the absolute pinnacle of the sport? What happens when the celebration officially ends and the brutal, unforgiving mathematics of building a dynasty actually begins? Well, welcome to NFL Nexus. I am absolutely thrilled you are here with us today to dive deep into this. Before we get into this incredible cinematic breakdown, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and comment down below on what you thought. And hey, if you really want to take it a step further and get involved, support the channel by becoming a channel member. Today we are unpacking the most ruthless, the most heavily scrutinized training camp in the entire National Football League. We are looking at the true, hidden, dark cost of greatness. We are talking about an environment where one single missed block or just one slight momentary hesitation in a Tuesday afternoon drill can literally end a man's entire career. Let's get into it. I want you to really look at the 2026 Seattle Seahawks. Just look at them. On paper, they are the absolute kings of the mountain, right? They are the defending Super Bowl champions. But in reality, behind closed doors, they are a franchise that is heavily burdened by an immense, almost suffocating level of pressure. You see, success in the National Football League creates a completely different kind of monster. You are no longer the hunter. You are the hunted. Every single Sunday, the team lining up across from you has spent the last 6 months obsessing over your film. I mean, literally obsessing. They have paused and rewound every single third down blitz pickup at 2 o'clock in the morning. They know your exact tendencies. They know your snap counts. They know the tells in your offensive linemen's stances. They are playing their Super Bowl every single time they play you. You become the entire league's ultimate measuring stick. General Manager John Schneider and head coach Mike Macdonald, they know this better than anyone alive right now. They know that running it back requires a lot more than just showing up and putting on the pads. It requires cold, calculated, almost frightening ruthlessness. Right now, the tension in the Pacific Northwest is so thick you could cut it with a knife. The price of a championship is the sheer mathematical impossibility of keeping the band together.
And listen, the pressure isn't just coming from the gridiron. It's coming straight from the boardroom. $9.6 billion. Let me just repeat that so it really sinks in. $9.6 billion. That is the astronomical, mind-bending scale of the franchise's pending landmark sale to the Khosla family, which is a massive transaction expected to receive formal NFL approval later this summer. Think about the sheer gravity of that number for a moment. A nearly $10 billion valuation places a massive, unavoidable, blinding off-field spotlight glaring directly down on the organization. The new ownership group isn't buying a rebuilding project. They aren't looking for a cute 5-year plan with room for growing pains. No, they are buying the defending champions of the world. They expect a flawless, immediate return on their massive investment. They expect perfection from day one. They expect a dynasty, period. And that crushing corporate weight, it trickles down from the climate-controlled, luxurious owner suite right into the humid, sweat-drenched locker room, and it lands squarely onto the shoulders of every single player who is fighting for a job.
And as if the burden of a historic $9.6 billion sale wasn't enough pressure to break a normal human being, the cameras are rolling. HBO's documentary crew for Hard Knocks has officially entered Seattle's training camp. So now you have boom mics hovering silently over the offensive huddle, catching every breath, every curse word. High-definition cinematic lenses are zooming in on the grimacing faces in the weight room. Every single micro-decision, every dropped pass in a completely mundane individual drill, every missed blocking assignment, and every grueling physical camp battle is now magnified under a relentless, unprecedented national television audience. There are no secrets anymore. Nothing is kept in-house. The psychological weight of this is absolutely staggering, especially for a fringe player. When a coach loses his temper and screams at a guy, it's broadcast to millions. When a rookie makes a mental error and his dreams are slowly, painfully crushed in front of his peers, it's captured forever in pristine 4K resolution. The Seahawks' title defense is literally unfolding inside of a fishbowl, amplifying the anxiety of every single man on that 90-man roster who knows his livelihood, his mortgage, his family's future is hanging by a thread.
Section 1. The new offensive mastermind. So, here is a reality of the NFL. When you win a Super Bowl, the rest of the league desperately wants to steal a piece of your magic. They want your secret sauce. So they poach your coaching staff. For Seattle, that meant the incredibly painful but completely unavoidable loss of offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, who packed his bags, took a massive payday, and left to become the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Kubiak was the undisputed mastermind behind this explosive, dynamic offensive scheme, and he's now tasked with overseeing quarterback Fernando Mendoza's high-stakes development over in Vegas. His departure left a massive, echoing void in Seattle, forcing Mike Macdonald to make a franchise-altering decision in the literal blink of an eye. So out goes Clint Kubiak. In comes Brian Fleury. Now, let me be clear. This wasn't just some random hire plucked out of thin air. This was a highly calculated, surgical strike to preserve the system. Fleury comes directly from the revered Kyle Shanahan coaching tree, having worked closely alongside Kubiak during their time in San Francisco. He understands the deeply microscopic intricacies of the wide zone blocking scheme. He understands exactly how to use complex pre-snap motion to mathematically out-leverage opposing linebackers before the ball is even snapped. Macdonald learned a very painful, very public early lesson about choosing the wrong offensive coordinator after a disappointing 2024 season. Bringing in Fleury shows a hardened, absolute solidification of his vision. Sure, Fleury has never been an NFL play caller before, but his mandate isn't to come in here and reinvent the wheel. The system absolutely must survive the personnel changes. That is the only mission.
And honestly, Brian Fleury is walking into an absolute goldmine here. 10. That is the magic number. 10. That is the number of offensive starters returning for this highly anticipated 2026 campaign. 10 out of 11 offensive starters are coming back. Fleury's job is to simply, seamlessly pick up exactly where Kubiak left off. He already has the pieces on the chessboard. He has quarterback Sam Darnold coming off an unbelievable, truly career-reviving breakout season, looking to refine his base mechanics and drive the football through incredibly tight windows against elite secondary play. He has a dynamic, terrifying backfield pairing of Jadarian Price and Kenneth Walker III. Walker has spent the entire offseason agonizingly rehabbing, working tirelessly on his sudden cuts, his vision, and his explosive acceleration through the C-gap, aggressively preparing to shoulder a much larger workload while Zach Charbonnet recovers. The continuity is undeniably there. The top-end, blue-chip talent is absolutely there. But listen to me carefully, that is exactly what makes the decisions at the very bottom of the roster so incredibly terrifying for these guys. Because the starting lineup is completely locked down in stone, the battle for the final few seats on that 53-man lifeboat is going to be an absolute unmitigated bloodbath.
Section 2. Unforgiving Championship Mathematics. This brutal reality, this unforgiving math, it hits the offensive line incredibly hard. Building a repeat contender isn't really about the superstars. It's not about the guys selling jerseys. The real, gritty war is happening down in the trenches for those final depth spots. Let's take a look at Oluwatimi. When Seattle drafted this former Michigan standout, he was supposed to be a long-term foundational fixture in the dead center of their offensive line for the next decade. He absolutely has the intelligence. He totally understands the incredibly complex blitz pickup calls and protections. But development in the NFL rarely happens in a vacuum. While Oluwatimi worked and studied, others just moved faster. Jalen Sundell suddenly emerged as the preferred, dominant center. Gray Zabel became an absolute cornerstone for the unit. So now, you have to contrast Oluwatimi's strict center-only prospect profile against a versatile weapon like Christian Haynes. Haynes offers the incredibly rare ability to play multiple interior positions at a high level. He has the fluid footwork, the immense functional strength, and the low leverage to anchor against a monstrous 330-pound nose tackle at center, and he also has the pulling mobility to kick out and play guard on outside runs. Macdonald places an absolute premium on this exact kind of positional flexibility. Oluwatimi struggles with the stiff hips that prevent elite pulling mechanics on those critical outside running plays. Because he simply doesn't project as a natural option across multiple spots on the line, his lack of flexibility places him squarely, terrifyingly on the chopping block. Despite his high football IQ, despite his great character, carrying a reserve offensive lineman who can only play one single position is a luxury a championship team simply cannot afford to have. It's a numbers game, and he is on the wrong side of the equation.
And it doesn't get any easier on the defensive side of the ball either. Let's look at this linebacker logjam. This is a terrifying depth chart to look at if you are a guy fighting for your NFL life right now. Ernest Jones IV is the unquestioned dominant leader of the group. Drake Thomas just recently earned himself a shiny, well-deserved new contract extension. Tyrese Knight is rapidly, visibly developing into a three-down athletic weapon who can cover and tackle. Chaz Surratt's return to the field further complicates everything for the bubble guys. So where on earth does that leave a guy like Patrick O'Connell? O'Connell has carved out a massive reputation inside that building as a deeply dependable, blue-collar, high-effort player. He is the guy who is in the facility at 5:30 in the morning, alone in the dark, watching tape on opposing punt gunner leverage. He is the guy who willingly throws his body into brutal, high-speed, car crash-like collisions on kickoff coverage without a second thought. He fully embraces the grimy, painful, totally unglamorous aspects of football that most guys shy away from. But the math, the championship math, is completely unforgiving. Seattle may look at the board and decide that carrying 4 off-ball linebackers is enough, opting instead to allocate that extremely precious 53rd roster spot to an extra situational edge rusher. If they keep 4 linebackers instead of 5, O'Connell, despite doing absolutely everything right, despite being a model teammate, a hard worker, and a fan favorite, will be forced out, cut, gone. Good players, highly respected players, get cut simply because the page runs out of lines. That is the cold reality of August in the NFL.
Section 3. Sudden roster casualties.
Let's really track the chaotic, geography-spanning, exhaustingly stressful timeline of tight end Harrison Bryant to truly understand the sheer churn of an NFL roster. Drafted by the Cleveland Browns back in 2020, he spends a few solid years there, putting his body on the line in the freezing cold. Then, fast forward to 2024, he packs up his entire life, moves all the way across the country, and signs a 1-year deal with the Raiders. Then the carousel really speeds up. March 2025, he moves all the way back east, signs a deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. Just 5 short months later, August 2025, he is abruptly traded to the Houston Texans, only to be shockingly cut just weeks later, then re-signed to the practice squad, and then promoted back to the active roster. The roller coaster never stops. He hits free agency yet again, flies all the way back out west, and signs with the Seahawks in April 2026. He thinks he's finally found a home, he's diligently learning the playbook, he's making friends in the tight end room, and then, July 21st, 2026, waived, fired, just like that. The dreaded knock on the dorm room door from the Grim Reaper at 6 in the morning. Coach wants to see you, bring your playbook. After all those flights, all those leases broken, all those different locker rooms, and all those systems learned. When you are a fringe guy, you are a mercenary living out of a suitcase, praying your phone doesn't ring when the general manager is making his morning rounds. It's a completely brutal way to make a living.
And why exactly was Harrison Bryant waived on that specific morning? It wasn't a character issue. It wasn't an injury. It was because of an immediate, microscopic, hyper-specific micro-decision by the front office. Out, tight end Harrison Bryant. In, cornerback Brandon Johnson. Earlier that very same day, right around 10 in the morning, under the absolutely scorching training camp sun, Seattle brought in Brandon Johnson for a street free agent tryout. The scouting department stood quietly on the sideline, holding their breath, stopwatches clicking. They watched him run a blazing, jaw-dropping 4.38 40-yard dash. They absolutely loved his fluid hips and his rapid change of direction in the 3-cone drill. They loved his height, his length, his measurables. In that exact moment, John Schneider made a split-second, franchise-level pivot. They realized, looking at the modern NFL landscape, that they desperately needed elite corner depth to match up against these explosive 5 wide receiver sets across the league, a lot more than they needed another heavy blocking tight end. So they seamlessly, coldly swapped them. Bryant's contract is legally terminated before he even sits down for lunch, and Johnson is immediately handed a team-issued iPad playbook and told to get to meetings. One man's devastating, life-altering heartbreak is another man's ultimate, life-changing opportunity. This isn't happening in a vacuum. This is happening right now, today, in real time, while those HBO cameras capture every single raw, agonizing emotion of the transaction.
All of this chaos, the sudden cuts, the high-profile offensive coordinator hires, the endless, grueling, exhausting evaluations, it brings the entire narrative right back to the one man who is tasked with steering this massive ship, head coach Mike Macdonald. As the analysts and insiders have perfectly noted, all of these extremely tough moves represent a, quote, solidification of his personal vision. Macdonald isn't just guessing out there, he isn't throwing darts at a board, and he certainly isn't holding on to players out of any misplaced sentimentality or past loyalties. He is actively constructing a hardened, unified, utterly ruthless machine specifically designed for a title defense. He knows exactly what he has. He knows his defense is completely loaded with blue-chip stars, and he's going to personally call those plays with absolute surgical precision. But to get this roster exactly where it needs to be, to survive the grueling, bone-chilling winter months ahead, to survive the playoffs, he has to act without a single ounce of hesitation. He has to look a guy in the eye and cut high-effort warriors like O'Connell or smart, dedicated linemen like Uluwatimi if they simply don't fit the precise, complex mathematical puzzle he is trying to build. The ultimate vision requires sacrifice, and that sacrifice is paid in human capital.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, the final, deeply lingering question we are left with as training camp rages on is simply this. Will these unforgiving, ruthless micro-decisions actually be enough to secure a repeat championship? Will cutting a highly respected center-only lineman, or releasing a beloved hard-hitting special teams warrior, or swapping a veteran journeyman tight end for a blazing fast workout cornerback be the razor-thin, microscopic difference between hoisting the Lombardi Trophy into the air once again or going home completely empty-handed in the bitter cold of January? In this league, every single decision counts. Every detail, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, is massively magnified. The true cost of NFL greatness is paid daily. It's paid in buckets of sweat, in devastating heartbreak, and in the relentless, uncompromising, maddening pursuit of absolute perfection. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible explainer. If you love this kind of intense, cinematic, detailed analysis of the game we all love, you know exactly what to do. Subscribe to NFL Nexus right now, hit that like button on this explainer, and let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Seriously, I want to hear from you. Would you keep Olutimi over a versatile guy? Let's hear it in the comments. And remember, you can directly support the channel and get access to exclusive content by becoming a channel member today. Until next time, keep your eyes glued to the gridiron.